The best fashion show is definitely on the street. Always has been, and always will be. If clothes could speak, Bill Cunningham knew how to listen. He photographed fashion not as a luxury or a spectacle, but as something deeply personal, an everyday language of self-expression on the streets of New York. His eye moved between documentary and fashion, always sharp, always awake. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing character. The way a coat hung on a shoulder, the tilt of an umbrella, the rhythm of fabric against the city's light. He was one of the first to make street style its own form of photography. Instead of keeping fashion locked inside shows and glossy pages, he widened the frame to include everyone. High society, passers-by, moments of glamour, moments of grit. They all belonged in his viewfinder. His approach was guided by both ethics and aesthetics. No staging, no interference, just an insistence on authenticity. You'd find him moving almost unseen, on his bicycle, in his blue workman's jacket, camera always ready. The images he left behind feel less like posed portraits and more like quick, honest sketches of a culture in motion. Through his work, we see not only what people wore, but why they wore it. Fashion becomes identity, style becomes story, and the street itself becomes a stage. Cunningham gave us a way of seeing that lingers still. The photographer not as judge, but as witness. Bill Cunningham was born in 1929 in Boston, raised in an Irish Catholic family. From an early age, he was drawn to fashion, so much so that when he moved to New York at 19, he began creating women's hats under the name William J. His time serving in France introduced him to the elegance of French couture, and when he returned to New York in the 1950s, his designs found their way to the heads of women like Marilyn Monroe, Katharine Hepburn, and Jacqueline Bouvier. By the early 60s, though, his path shifted. He left millinery behind, turning instead to writing about fashion, and soon after, to photography. He gained recognition for bringing designers such as Azzedine Alaïa and Jean-Paul Gaultier to American audiences. But it was his candid street photography that became his true legacy. Without formal training, he took to the sidewalks of Manhattan, capturing the style of everyday life in the late 70s. In 1978, his images appeared in the New York Times, giving birth to the legendary column On the Street, soon followed by Evening Hours, which chronicled the city's high society gatherings. For decades, he recorded fashion not as an industry, but as a language of personal expression. He photographed the anonymous and the famous alike, never chasing celebrity, always chasing authenticity. Red carpets held no interest for him. What mattered were the choices people made for themselves when they got dressed in the morning. Beyond his newspaper work, Cunningham created essays for Details and Visionaire, and produced the acclaimed photo book Facades with model Edita Sherman. Together they staged a visual dialogue between New York's historic buildings and vintage clothing, weaving fashion and architecture into a single story. Over the years, his vast archive grew into an irreplaceable record of New York style across half a century. His quiet dedication did not go unnoticed. He was named Outstanding Photographer of the Year by the Council of Fashion Designers of America, honored with the French Order of Arts and Letters, and celebrated as a living landmark in New York. Until his death in 2016, he was a gentle, beloved figure, pedaling his bicycle through the city streets. Designer Oscar de la Renta once said that Cunningham captured the visual history of New York like no one else. And it's true. Through his lens, the city revealed its soul. Despite being one of the most recognized photographers in the world of fashion, Bill Cunningham was remembered above all for his humility. You could spot him roaming the streets of New York in his unmistakable uniform, black sneakers, a blue work jacket, and his camera as his only accessory. His independence as a photographer and journalist could be summed up in his own words: "If you don't take money, they can't tell you what to do." He turned down drivers, perks, and luxuries. Instead, he chose his bicycle, riding from one show to another, because to him, creative freedom was worth far more than comfort. He never accepted gifts from the people he photographed, not even a drink at the most glamorous parties. As he once said, "I just try to be honest, and in New York that's almost impossible." Bill saw himself more as a journalist than a fashion photographer. His mission was to capture the essence of fleeting moments without staging or editing. That honesty gave his images a rawness, a truth, as if he had frozen life exactly as it was. Most of his photographs were never sold or even published. With his usual irony, he explained, "Really, I do this for myself. I steal people's shadows, so I don't feel so guilty when I don't sell them." One of his greatest contributions was showing the world that fashion wasn't confined to runways or luxury boutiques. For Bill, fashion lived in the streets, in everyday people, in the way each person expressed themselves through style. That vision paved the way for the rise of street-style photography and the blogs that would later flood the internet, inspiring a whole new generation of photographers and fashion lovers who now document personal style all around the world. But perhaps the most powerful part of his legacy is how he taught us to look at fashion, not just as trends or glamour, but as a mirror of culture, of social change, of life itself. Bill Cunningham didn't just leave behind photographs. He left a way of seeing the world, curious, respectful, and forever in love with the beauty of the everyday. And maybe this is the greatest lesson he gave us. He chose to stay true to himself, rather than compromise his ideals. He captured fashion as he saw it in the people crossing the streets of New York, reminding us that beauty is everywhere, in every moment, in every person, if only we take the time to look.